Greetings hobbyists, this is Artisans of All, and in this video we're going to have a look at a workflow using booleans to combine complex objects. So in the last video I was talking through some parenting tips and tricks for use when doing a boolean workflow, and I got a request on the Discord for the Patreon from Alex, and he was asking me to actually go through how I'd boolean all of these objects together. So what I'm going to do is pick one of these suits of sci-fi armor. I'm actually going to pick this one because I know that it causes some issues along the way when I did it, so I think it's a good example. So I'm just going to use machine tools and the focus feature with F. You can see all my keys in the bottom right hand corner, and we're going to talk through this boolean workflow. Now, first thing before we go any further, I apologize about my voice. I was losing my voice a little bit in the last video, and since then I got married, and in the latter parts of the party afterwards there was quite a bit of Machine Head, Disturbed and other such bands, and well, let's just say I was a little bit inebriated and enthusiastic at the time, and I since lost my voice, and I'm now sort of in the process of getting it back. So I do apologise about the audio. It's not the recording itself, it's just my voice being rubbish. So I'll try to be as succinct as I can with this. So first thing we're going to do is select everything, and I'm going to use hard ops to quickly press Q, quick favourites, and then I'm just going to smart apply. I've got that as my quick favourites. Normally it's in operations, and that will smart apply all of the modifiers that have been placed on this. So all of the booleans that were originally there, the lattice that was on this object, and so on. Then I'd normally go into all of these objects, go into vertex mode, and then press 3 to use the machine tools cleanup. Now machine tools is an add-on, it costs $5 and it's really worth it for that cleanup feature. But if you don't have that, what you can do is in vertex mode press A, M, and then merge by distance, and that should sort out everything as well. Now I've already actually done that to these objects earlier on as I was creating this armor, so it's not really relevant for me to do that to every single object. So I'm not going to do that for the sake of it and just give you a boring part of a tutorial. The other thing I'm going to do is select everything, press Alt and P, and clear my parents but keep the transformations. And the reason for that's importance is explained in the last video. There's a link to that in the description, but I would always recommend doing that if you've posed a miniature. So other than that, I've only got 2 tips here really. One of them is one that I've covered before, and it was actually mentioned in the last video, and that is to speed things up, we're going to use ball tools. So if you don't have that, go to Edit, Preferences. This is Blender 4.2, so it will look slightly different, but in the extensions, if you don't have it, you need to go to Ball Tool. I actually need to update mine, so I'm going to do that quickly now. Same with these other add-ons. That's quite a nice thing about Blender 4.2 is they can update as they go, so let's just quickly get those done. And then finally, if you haven't enabled it, go to Add-ons, type in Ball Tool, though it's here because in Blender 4.2 they don't list everything, just the ones that you've got. So make sure that's enabled and save preferences. What this is going to mean you can normally do is if you've got 2 objects is you can click one, shift click the other and press Control and plus, and it's going to automatically create that boolean just here. Now for me that's using ND because I've got the ND add-on, but we're not actually going to do that. What we're going to do is click and shift click, and we're going to press Control Shift and plus. Now what that's going to do is not create an add-on. It automatically just does the boolean and it does it destructively. So that's a really useful tip just for speeding everything up so that we don't have to do this by Control and plussing to create that boolean and then going here and then applying it. It just makes everything tedious. The second tip, and that is the most important one of this video, though I will go through booleaning together all of these objects to demonstrate it, and there should be some examples of this in action. But whenever I boolean things together, I try to always create groups of 3 where there's going to be a central object. Now for this feat there's not going to be one central object annoyingly, but because these 3 share overlap that works anyway. But normally what I'll always attempt to do is find one object, let's say this knee pad, and then there'd be 2 other objects either side, let's say the thigh and the shin, that will combine together with it. Now the reason why it's always useful to have things in these 3s is that if you've tried to use a Boolean workflow before, you've probably found that at some point it's had some issues. Hopefully we should find some issues along the way. And what's really helpful, though a little frustrating because there's not really a good explanation as to why it always happens, is that if I was to Boolean this object to the knee pad, let's Control Shift and plus, if that didn't work and there was an issue with it, in this instance there wasn't, what I could do instead is actually select the thigh and Boolean it to the knee pad, and there's a good chance that by doing that it would resolve the issue and then allow me to do the shin to the knee pad, even though it hadn't worked the first time. And this idea of grouping things into 3 with a central component really helps. It means that you don't have to spend time trying to fix things that often don't need fixing, because if you do them in a different order, they'll work anyway. Now, this does require a little bit more practice than that. There are certain things that you'll learn are more likely to cause problems than others, and you'll start grouping your body into different parts, or your object in different parts, with this idea of having some central object that's always going to work. So let's start going through this bit by bit, and you can see what I mean, hopefully, when we get some problems. So what I'm going to do is use this part here as a central part, because both of these overlap onto it. So I'm going to go there and there, Control Shift and plus, and I did that one first, just here, because what it means is that now I've got this part left over, and it means that now that is in the middle of these 2 parts, which I've just coloured in green quickly to show you, which means I've maintained the idea of there being a middle object that I'm going to Boolean to. So again, I'll work from this one, Control Shift and plus there, and with that working out fine, I've now got this working, and this now becomes my middle object that these parts are going to be combined to. So let's take that foot, Control Shift and plus, and that's worked out fine. And now I've got the same idea here, where I've got the central knee and the 2 objects either side that make this the middle part. However, because we've got this back part here, I generally know that these parts are going to cause more of a problem, so I'm actually almost doubling up on this. I've got these 2 parts that I want to bring together, but I've got this bit here and this bit here, which will help me resolve some of these issues. And you can see I've already been a bit lazy with a Boolean here, and you can see that there's a little bit of this object left there. So this is likely to be a problem at some point. Not there though, so that's good. So let's have a look at this. So we've now got 2 objects either side. I've also got another problem piece here, which is likely to cause an issue, and I want to deal with this again with having 2 pieces either side that I know don't have any real issues with them. So let's just select that, Control Shift and plus there, and we've got that with no issues, so that's good. So you can now see that I've got a larger object here, another object here, and 1 object here, where we're potentially going to have issues with some of these 3, specifically these 2. So let's just Control Shift and plus there, and you'll notice we've had this problem. So this is a good example of where this hopefully is going to resolve a problem. So what I'm going to do is, with that not working, I'm not going to worry about this and start trying to fix this object, or this one, I don't know which one the issue is with. What I'm going to do is instead select this one. It didn't work Booleaning with that, so let's Boolean it with this one. And now that's worked. What's interesting is, if this little bit there was the issue, I don't know if it was, just by having joined it to another object, and then trying here, now we haven't had an issue. I can't even explain why this is. It's some weird Blender logic, and I think it might be to do with, now that we've just changed how this object is thought of because it's part of a bigger object, Blender is just going through the Boolean process edge by edge and vertex by vertex in a slightly different order, and now it works out fine. We have got a slight shading issue here, but that's not actually a problem. Let's just shade that flat, and you can see that's all fine. So that was actually probably the best demonstration I could have of how this is going to really help. Now, if we just do the same thing again here, you can see I've actually got a middle bit here which I want to look at as well. Now, for this one, it wasn't relevant because it's never visible at any point, so I didn't bother using it. So let's just do that there. That seems fine. And then to here, this seems fine as well. I'm going to do the same logic. I'm going to bring these 2 together, and then this one and this one together, because those are where the issues are likely to be. And you'll notice I keep moving around to look at everything, especially with these sorts of objects. You can get problems at different places, so it's good to look everywhere to see if there's an issue. We'll do the same test. So let's Boolean these 2 together here. And I should say a weird thing that happens with Blender as well. There hasn't been an issue here, but you'll notice with the lower leg selected, I shift selected here and press Control Shift and plus, and that worked. But if it didn't, and you really don't have another object to try it with, if you actually select it in the other order, sometimes you also get a different result. Again, who knows why? Something to do with the way Blender seems to work. And again, this is Boolean together fine. Just with that shading issue, let's shade that flat. Now what this means is I've once again got two potential problem objects here with one central one that is going to be, for want of a better word, more stable. It's got less geometry that's likely to be a pain. So again, I can now use this as my central object, try booleaning 1 to it, and if that doesn't work, I can do it in a different order and hopefully that will resolve everything. So let's just go this side first, Control Shift and plus, and we do have an issue. Right, so let's go the other way, Control Shift and plus, and that's worked. And now if we do it with this one, no, it hasn't worked. So possibly a problem here. So let's do it the other way. I'm now going to click this object and shift click that one, whereas before we'd selected the groin first and the leg second. Let's do it the other way round. Oh, and we've still got that issue. So what we're going to do here is add something to this object. So I'm going to take this and add it to this object. So Control Shift and plus there, and let's try that again. And in a shocking turn of events, for no real understandable reason, it's now worked. So yeah, as I said, this is a bit bizarre. And you can often get something that feels like it shouldn't work, and then you just try it in a different order and it does. Now, I'm not going to say that this is always going to work perfectly. It is a really nice and useful solution to an issue that people often find, and just trying this, just undoing it and redoing it in a different order, often resolves a lot of issues. If it doesn't, then you are going to need to fall back. Let's come to this part here. Let's click the N button, go to 3D print. If you don't have this, go to Edit, Preferences, and for your add-on you need 3D Print Toolbox. So that's 3D Print Toolbox there. If you haven't got that extension, you obviously need to get it first if you're using Blender 4.2. And that will allow you to do a check all on any part, and then you can look to see if you've got any non-manifold edges or badly contiguous edges. And those are the things that are going to really need resolving. Sometimes intersecting faces can cause a problem as well, but often they're not too much of a big deal. For example, here, they've not caused a problem in the slightest. Now, in reality, I'm not actually going to combine this backpack. I was just using that as an example because I want to have this as a separate 3D printed piece. So anyway, hopefully that was useful, seeing how just doing things in a different order can sometimes resolve a lot of issues with your general Boolean functions. Now, if I just come out of that, I did want to test one more thing. If I just come here, now I haven't done anything with this one, so let's just press Q, Operations, and Smart Apply, go into vertex mode, and then 3 to use our cleanup. What I'm going to do is try something else that I've been fiddling around with doing Booleans faster. Oh, and I do need to Alt and P and clear the parents. What I'm going to do is just actually bring all of these, let's get rid of the backpack, and we'll just do it to the torso, and I'm going to press Control and J to join those together. And now this is what you should not do. I know some people do this, please don't. I can do a very long ranting video about why, but I've done that previously. But what we could try is just going to my add modifier, and I've made a geonode modifier called a self-union, and we'll see if this has worked and we can just do a Boolean in one go, but it's likely to be a lot slower. Ooh, and that does appear to have actually worked. Let's just shade that flat. I'm really surprised by that, I'm going to be honest, as I've been playing around with this for less complex objects, and then we're going to have to apply this and it's going to take a little bit longer, so let's just smart apply that. Oh no, that did that fairly quickly. Now I'm actually genuinely surprised, as I said, that worked really so well. But if you do want to have a look at what I've just done there, I've got a video on that where we talk about creating this self-union within a object that's got overlaps to it. I'll put a link to that in the description as well, and you might want to check that out. But I'm going to be honest, I don't think that's as foolproof as the method I showed here, but I do think it's really interesting that it's worked. So you might want to check that out as well. Anyway, I hope you found that video useful. I'm going to go and retire my voice for the day. If you did find that helpful, please do hit the like button. It really helps the channel out. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe for more great content. Finally, if you do want to support the channel any further, there is a Patreon page where for a few dollars a month you get these videos ad-free, a week early, and other great perks as well, for example being part of that Patreon Discord. Have a great day, guys.